a beautiful morning. You're welcome to Women's Corner. My name is Rose Blossom. Of course, it's a West Day. We're just few days into the month already, and I'm excited because this month seems to be, running fast. Well, some people is good, but for some persons, it's definitely not a good thing when the month is running so fast. You're welcome again. And yes, this program runs from 11 a.m. to 12 noon every Monday through Friday. And if you want to watch this program live, you can tune into Galaxy TV News on Facebook and on Twitter to watch this program live. Today, we're talking about health, quite different. Okay, this is something that a lot of women go through and they do not know. In a way, it affects their fertility rate. But, as usual, because I am here, I always have women who are ready to educate us to be better, healthy, and not just outside, you glowing, your skin is all popping, your hair is on point, your nails are speaking languages that people do not understand. But inside of you, if they dissect it, is a oh my god. But anyways, we're here for you. That's what we're here to talk about today. The pelvic inflammatory disease. It has a lot to do with our body. Sometimes what we take, and sometimes it just comes natural for some persons due to maybe gene or hereditary thing. Like I said, we're talking about pelvic inflammatory disease, and we have a nurse that'll be doing justice to that because that's her specialty. Okay, but first, before we introduce our guest and start talking, as usual, let's go check a health talk with Dr. Kelvin Isibo, where he advised us on PCOS, which is something very rampant in women, but we tend to always ignore. We tend not to want to do this. The only test most women tend to do is vagina test. I'm sorry to use that word, but I'm just being real. It's when it has to do with maybe you're having a foul smell, you feel itchy. My darling, is beyond that. You have to do your test every now and then. Your pelvic is very important. It has to do with your reproductive system, especially for those who still want to give birth. Okay, so enough talk. Let's quickly go for a tip on PCOS by Dr. Kelvin Isibo. And we'll be right back to the studio to introduce the guests and, of course, get cracking. Stay with us.
Good day, everyone. I am Dr. Kelvin Isibo, a medical practitioner in Lagos, Nigeria, and I'm here in Women's Corner to talk about common medical conditions that women have and some of the challenges they face. I'll start with polycystic ovarian syndrome, which we call PCOS. It's a medical condition where usually both ovaries have multiple cysts. Cyst refers to a boil-like cavity in the ovaries. Usually you find it in both ovaries. It is very common in this age and time. A lot of black women have polycystic ovarian syndrome. What are some of the signs and symptoms? It comes with amenorrhea, meaning the woman is missing her period while she's not pregnant. Some of them have weight gain, unnecessary weight gain. For some, the face is darker than the other part of the body. Usually it comes with pimples. It comes with hirsutism, which is appearance of hair in different part of the body that usually you see in male, but now you are seeing it in female, like the breast area, the chest, the leg, and things like that. And now some of the challenges they have with polycystic ovarian syndrome is that sometimes it can be challenging to conceive. So some of these women, they have fertility. Now the challenge is for a guy that is dating a girl with polycystic ovarian syndrome, should he go ahead to marry that particular girl knowing that there are challenges, with childbearing? Especially if he wants to be a father. Where in life, in everything you go through in life, there are challenges. But the good thing about polycystic ovarian syndrome is that there are treatments. And if truly you love this person, it is not their making, It is not because of any mistake they have made in life, but sometimes it just happens. As a man, you don't even know the challenges you will meet. What if your partner decides to leave you? Let's say for reason not known, idiopathic, you have low sperm count, and that is not your fault, you know. So the decision is yours, but be reasonable. Put yourself in their situation. You know, it is easier when they go through this with their partner and they have a good support system. It could be your sister.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Women's Corner now. That's from Dr. Kelvin. See, but a lot of people have different challenges when it comes to health, and for women, sometimes it can be very, very taxing. Trust me, because we have a lot of things to protect. I don't know. Well, it's not like men do not have theirs, but trust me, if women have a lot of 1 million things they need to take care of when it comes to their body, men have maybe 500,000, trust me. So we women, we need to be careful what we do. Anyways, we have Chioma Cynthia Udebwani, who of course is a registered nurse and a midwife. She's also an outreach facilitator for Life Impact Foundation. She's also a community administrator for Pregnancy Support Foundation and a program manager at Teen Challenge. Also, she's a teacher, and amazingly well, she is a mentor. Can we have Chioma Cynthia Udebwani on the screen? Hi, good morning,
Hello, good
Chioma.
morning. Good morning.
It's good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us and trying to educate us so much about ourselves.
All right. It's great to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my first question, the word seems a bit bogus. If you're saying pelvic inflammatory disease, trust me, a lot of people do not even understand what that is. So we'll first start with the definition. What is pelvic inflammatory, or what are the pelvic inflammatory diseases that we women are prone to have or have?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And it's really great to be here again. So first thing first, what is pelvic inflammatory disease? When you hear that term, what comes to mind, or what are we actually talking about? So it's actually an infection or inflammation that occurs in the upper reproductive organs of a woman. So it begins around the cervical area, and then the infection travels way up and now affects the uterus, the fallopian tubes, and then the ovaries, like the structure that carries the egg. So whenever you hear pelvic inflammatory disease, it's just an infection that occurs in the upper reproductive tract of a woman. Exactly. So that's just what it is in the most simplest of terms.
What are the few diseases that can attached, or that can let's start with attached to the pelvic. What are the few diseases that could actually attack our pelvic? And also, what are the things that we need to avoid to actually not have this pelvic inflammatory disease? Maybe it's a lifestyle, or what we do, or how we do things, or is it even genetic? Is it hereditary? I think we would like to know, so that a lot of women would be able to balance it right.
All right. So let's go. Yeah. So regarding pelvic disease, number one is that it is not hereditary. Okay, it's not transferred by genes. Now, the organisms that are associated with this, you have untreated STIs. Usually, that is the culprit when it comes to pelvic inflammatory disease. And common organisms or common STIs that predispose one to pelvic inflammatory disease is gonorrhea and chlamydia. That's Neisseria, gonorrhea, and Chlamydia trachomatis. Yes, trachomatis. So these are organisms that cause gonorrhea and the chlamydia infection. Now, when this infection occurs in a woman and it is not treated or poorly treated, these organisms now will multiply in her, the cervical area, cause inflammation there, and then travel along that tract like it's an ascending infection. So once organisms have distorted affected the composition within the cervical area, it now goes up, travels up that reproductive tract and affects the uterus, affects the fallopian tubes, affects the ovaries, and sometimes they can even travel out of that pelvic area and enter into the surrounding pelvic organs and also some infections there. Now, for I mentioned two organisms, that's gonorrhea, the organism causing gonorrhea and chlamydia. Now, other factors that can predispose a woman to this infection or this disease, you have the use of intrauterine device, that's the IUCD implants that women use for family planning. Now, I'm not saying that when you have an IUCD implant, you're definitely going to have um, PID, pelvic inflammatory disease. But what I'm saying is that it predisposes, especially when you already have that infection. It makes the infection to travel faster and increases the effect of this infection. Now, other things or other risk factors could be lifestyle, such as alcohol intake and smoking. Taking of alcohol, substance abuse, smoking has been shown to, reduce your suppress your immunity, and then predispose you to a lot of other conditions, and PID is one of it. Then you also have when one is having intercourse with several partners, and even when you have one partner and that partner is not faithful, it can also predispose you to this infection, to this disease. And what else am I missing out? What else am I missing out? Yeah, it also boils down to primarily untreated STIs. When you notice changes in your body as a woman, you really need to go and get checked, so that if it's a condition that is threatening, it is identified immediately and you can start off treatment. All right, thank you.
Much. Thank you so much. Well, thank you for stating factly that there's nothing hereditary about these things. It just depends on the lifestyle and how you live your life. So my next question is, now for people who might have PID and they do not know, PID is of course for the public space, it's pelvic inflammatory disease. So we're trying to just shorten it to PID, so it could be fast. So typically, what are the kind of symptoms that you think you might have or you would have if you have PID? And also, I feel like sometimes, when you have typhoid and you have malaria, to be honest, their symptoms seem alike. You're having this feverish feeling, you're having headache, you're having high fever. But some people for typhoid, they just know that they have a rigor. Now, the rigor is the worst part of the cold when you're shaking. It's as though your teeth and everything is, it's very high. The cold is higher than that of a normal malaria. Now, that's for people who have taken time to study themselves and know how the symptoms are for them. Now, for PID, what are the symptoms that every woman usually would have? And again, I think you should help us differentiate it, because like I said, typhoid, malaria have almost the same symptom, if not the same. So if there are other symptoms that PID would have that other diseases can also have, please just state them. Why you're saying if you're having this, then it could also be this, it could also be PID, so people would know that it is not just PID. Because trust me, some persons are just like one-way streets. Whatever you tell them is what they take. So we need to be careful while divulging information. So while you're telling us the symptoms, tell us the ones that might likely be mistaken for another condition again, because when you have that condition or that disease, you might have that symptom. So please, we would like to know the early symptoms or also the late symptoms.
All right. Thank you so much. So going straight to the question, what are the symptoms of this pelvic inflammatory disease? Now, first and foremost, because it affects a particular aspect of a woman's life or a woman's body, the symptoms are usually unique. So when I mean by unique, you will notice things like unusual vaginal discharge. Okay. Now, usually they will always be discharged from the vaginal area through the vulva. Okay. But when this discharge is now more than, in terms of quantity, it is more than normal, because of course we know that the vagina is self-cleansing. So when it cleanses itself, it dumps, the those materials in the vulva. And so when you notice that this discharge is more than normal, and then it is thicker than normal, and it's smelly, abnormal vaginal discharge, then a woman should know that there is a problem. There is a problem. Now, you could also have pain during urination. Of course, malaria does not necessarily give you pain during urination. Then the woman can also experience pain during sexual intercourse, like you're making love and you're having pain. It's because of the inflammatory process that is going on inside of your body. Then another one classical symptom you can have as a woman is, pain around your pelvic area. Pain around your pelvic area, especially it can either be on the left side.
That's work.
Advanced. Okay, it has
Okay.
advanced. So you already have pus collecting in your ovaries. That is why you're having pain there. Then another symptom you can also have is fever. Fever is one symptom that is common across different infections. You can have fever in malaria, fever in bacterial infections, different kind of bacterial infections. So fever is also noticed by women in PID.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. The next
Yeah,
question I
thank
have
you.
is I know a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people have these things and they do not even know they have it. So my first question is I wanted to ask what are the treatment, but I think it's better, they go for the test first. Then, of course, when they
Yeah.
have their test, they'll meet a medical practitioner to do that. So I'm not going to ask
Mm.
for the treatment because I don't want people to self-medicate or go over the counter and get these drugs or I don't know. A lot of people, when they have, like you said, they have pain while having sexual interactions. They feel like they have too much discharge. A lot of people have the next thing is to go for antibiotics without even thinking, consulting, or doing tests. You're like, I know what's wrong with me now. I'll just buy antibiotics and maybe some other things, which I believe that's not the way to go. Okay, Cynthia is offline. Okay, while we bring Cynthia up, I have questions for her, but before she comes back, let's quickly go for another tip. And this one is about, well done. Yes, let's go for tips on health and wellness because we're talking about health. So what can we do? We need to keep as much as our face as shining and glowing. We need our inner to also be well and healthy. So let's quickly go for these tips on health and wellness, and we'll be right back to continue the show with Chioma Cynthia Udebwani talking about pelvic inflammatory diseases in women. We'll be right back.
Tips on health and wellness. Eat real food. Real food is all single ingredient foods that are unprocessed and free of additives. Incorporating these foods into your day can help improve your health, manage your weight, and give you energy. The Snack Smart is easy to mindlessly snack throughout the day, so make sure your snack choices aren't weighing you down. Mixed nuts, veggies, Greek yogurt, even a piece of dark chocolate are all great options that will keep you feeling satisfied. Start your day with a glass of water. Your body goes quiet a few hours without hydration as you sleep. Drinking a full glass of water in the morning can aid digestion, flush out toxins, enhance skin health, and give you an energy boost. Begin with something positive. Wake up and do something that inspires you, like journaling, walking in nature, or other hobbies. Whether it's productive or relaxing, beginning your morning on the right foot can cultivate a positive mindset and set the tone of the entire day. Get plenty of sleep. Sleep is just as important as eating healthy and exercising, from improving your productivity and concentration to helping support your overall health. Getting the recommended hours of sleep per night can have a major impact on your well-being. Manage your money. Money worries are oftentimes a big source of stress for some people. Saving for the future, or mortgages and paying off loans, it all add up. Create a priority list for yourself and determine a realistic budget to provide yourself some relief.
All right, yes, you're welcome back. Thank you so much. Do we have Cynthia? If we have Cynthia, please let's bring her back on the screen. All right, Cynthia, you're welcome back. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we're still talking about PID, which is pelvic inflammatory disease. Now, my next question, very quickly, I'm trying to make sure that we'll finish this topic because I notice every time, you know, we tend not to end up finishing our topics for every because the hours are very
That's
short.
true.
Okay, so my first question is: are there any cases that will require you to be hospitalized when you have PID? Are there any cases? If there are, please tell us why and how we should avoid that. And also, what are the potential complications? I think it's still related to the first question too. Potential complications that, you know, if we leave it untreated, that's the PID. It make us land into the hospital. You know, you might be walking around and taking your medications, which is fair, but the complications will probably make it worse for you that you probably have to be hospitalized or something. What are the worst complications? And yes, what can it lead to? Let's start with that one first and I'll ask the next question.
Okay, so let me. You said no, the first question was if there are cases where one can be hospitalized, right? So for PID, you know, like I said, it's an infection, okay, and it started from somewhere. It started at some point. So usually, when women will notice some changes in their body, you understand, the first point of call is let me just go and buy antibiotics and take. But disclaimer, the organisms that cause PID, they are quite sensitive, okay? So taking antibiotics just like that is not going to suffice. You need to have a very good prescription and you need to stay true to the course of that treatment. So in serious cases of PID, you remember when I talked about the symptoms and I said if the woman can also feel pain around her loin, like the pelvic area, you can start feeling pains there, like excruciating pain. Now, this is when that infection has advanced. In fact, there is already collection of pus in the ovaries and the fallopian tubes. Now, that is a case of a serious infection, you understand. And most times, an oral antibiotic prescription will not do. That woman will need to be placed on IV antibiotics. She will need to be admitted. In some cases, they might need to do, you know, a procedure to drain out those abscess there so that the medications can work very well. So usually it's this infection is not serious if it is noticed on time and treated promptly. But when it has advanced and involved the ovaries and the fallopian tubes, in that case, that woman will need to be hospitalized and placed on IV antibiotics and even oral antibiotics, both together in the hospital. Now, another case where one will be admitted is maybe it's you notice the symptoms, you present to the hospital, and then you have your medications. They give you an oral regimen of antibiotics, and say for instance you were not faithful with taking that medication, and along the line that infection reoccurs again. Usually when it reoccurs, it can become chronic such that you will not need the normal line of medication or normal line of treatment. You need something extra to now get you to so that you can take and then begin to get better. Okay. Now talking about the potential complications, PID is not a child's play. PID is not a child's play. It is treatable, very, very much treatable. But if you have STIs that are poorly treated, or a PID infection that was not treated properly, complications that can result from it are, number one, it's infertility. Okay, so you hear women, some women, they'll go for maybe after getting married, they are trying to conceive, and then they go for this HSG to know if, to find out what the problem is, and you hear things like tubal blockage. They tell them that their tubes is blocked. Very common culprit in this tubal blockage is PID, because once that infection has started going, one, it starts going on and it's not treated. In fact, even with treatment, because it has advanced, that inflammatory process causes injury to, the fallopian tubes. It's just like when you have a cut on your skin. Even when that cut heals off, you find out that there are scar tissues. That is just the same way it happens inside of our bodies. That infection is more like an injury inside your body. So even when it heals with scar tissue. And if that injury was extensive, you find out that the scarring will be more. So it will block off the tubes, and during ovulation and then after sexual intercourse, the egg cannot come, the egg cannot leave the ovaries and then flow down, like move down the fallopian tubes for fertilization to take place. So you find out that infertility is one of a common complication. The second complication, very common also, is what we call ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy simply means pregnancy or fertilization that has occurred outside of the uterus. So usually after fertilization, the egg that has been fertilized, I'm trying to use very simple terms as I can, because I know we are talking to a very wide range of audience. So the egg that has been fertilized with the sperm is implanted in the uterus. It is implanted in the womb. So whatever makes that egg to leave the environment in the womb and gets implanted anywhere else is what we call ectopic pregnancy. So because there is already damages to structures in the fallopian tube, so fertilization take place, and then the egg will now start growing in the fallopian tubes there. So leading to what we call ectopic pregnancy. And if it is undiscovered, it is very, very life-threatening. That the fallopian tubes can rupture, and that woman could have very extensive bleeding. Now, another side effects, or sorry, not side effect. Now we're talking about complications. Potential complications that can also result is chronic pain. Now, this is a pain that refuses to go. It's a long-term pain. PID on its own, in acute phases, presents with pain, and with treatment the pain goes away. But when structures have been damaged extensively, that woman could keep complaining of pain even when the infection itself has resolved, has been treated. Now, I also mentioned earlier when I was talking about the fact that this infection goes up, that in as much as it affects the reproductive tract, it can also leave the reproductive environment and affect surrounding structures around the abdomen, or medically the pelvis as we have it in the pelvic region. So it affects go as far as the peritoneum rather, but it's still within the abdomen. So it can cause damages to surrounding structures. So it's not something that you want to take lightly. It's not something that you want to play with. If you notice changes in your body, please avoid over-the-counter medications. Avoid over-the-counter medications. You really need to see the doctor. You need to go to the hospital so that they really know what exactly is wrong with you. Because I just want to just chip in something regarding the treatment of this PID. Now, when an antibiotic is prescribed for you and you start taking it, you will be monitored. And if if within 72 hours, that's like 3 days, there is no change, you don't have relief of symptoms, then another course of antibiotic treatment will be commenced. But say, for instance, now you went to a chemist and you just bought any kind of antibiotics and you started taking it, and then you don't even know if it's working as it should, and you just continue taking it, that infection will just keep growing, and the organisms keep multiplying and the infection keeps progressing, and you are just putting yourself at risk. So having said all of this, please, women, ladies out there, you really need to take your health very serious. You really need to take your well-being very serious, okay? And I know that we would all have every cause to rejoice. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was quite deep. Well, we still have a little bit of time, so let me just ask. I'm just going to be putting the questions together. So, I wrote some down. Yes. Now you talked about sometimes this PID of a thing. It might not necessarily even be you. You might be faithful to one partner, but your partner is not faithful. So that still risks you. Puts you at risk. So what role do you think safe sexual practice play in preventing PID? And also, does PID impact a woman's reproductive health overall, or it just means that you might not just be able to deliver? Does it affect the reproductive system in every way? And also, is safe sex practice another best way to actually, avoid PID?
All right. Thank you so much. So, yeah, speaking of safe sexual practice, it is everything. Everything. It is very. In fact, the role in helping prevent PID cannot be overemphasized. It is really, really important, because if you can vouch for yourself and you cannot vouch for your partner, the best way is just to protect yourself. That's just the best resolve to do, is just to protect yourself. In fact, even when you are undergoing treatment, your doctor is going to advise you that within that period of treatment, you're not supposed to have sexual intercourse with your partner. You must abstain for it. Is a compulsory something. And that your partner, on the other hand, has to be tested and then treated. Okay, but if these things about being faithful, if it's something that your partner cannot do, the best thing to just do is to protect yourself. So actually, the whole role of safe sex practice cannot be overemphasized. It cannot be overemphasized. So you just have to protect yourself. Then, speaking of, if you know, PID as we have it affects other aspects of a woman's reproductive health. Primarily, it's just the fact that it can hamper your ability to take in. It doesn't mean that women who have had PID, they have not had children, or they won't get pregnant and carry that pregnancy safely up till term. No, it doesn't mean that. And aside of that, I think the basic thing, or the other aspect of your life that it can actually affect, it's your emotional well-being, your psychological health, okay? But regarding the reproductive health, it's just really the fact that long term it causes infertility. It's a culprit rather in infertility and ectopic pregnancy. That's primarily the effect it has. It doesn't interfere with your ability to um have sexual relations or enjoy sexual relations with your partner. It doesn't affect that in any way, okay, except that during the time that the infection is active, you can have painful coitus when you're having sexual relations with your partner. It can be painful because of that infection, but once it's treated, it doesn't have any other effect on your reproductive health, except for the fact that it can predispose you to infertility going forward and ectopic pregnancy if it's not properly treated. Then another thing that could happen is that there is this condition that newborns usually come with, or not. I don't want to use the term usually. Sometimes it can happen in newborns when they are born with what we call, it's an infection of the conjunctiva, and it's called medically ophthalma neonatorum. So it is also as a result of poorly treated infection in women. So on your own part, the only effect it has on your own health is that you could come down with infertility, or you could have the case of an ectopic pregnancy. But even for your unborn child, when that infection has not been taken care of correctly, that child is born with this infection of the conjunctiva of the eyes. Okay, aside of that, there are no other effects that it could pose to you as a woman generally.
Oh, thank you. You see that part where the unborn child is already going to be affected? That is something we women really need to, like I said, it's something that we really need to take care of ourselves. It's not just about the glow. You go to a spa, you take care of your outer body. What you take
Yeah.
inside, how you maintain your inside is very important. Now, because of our time, I really love this topic, and it's something that myself would have to go and rewatch again so that I could speak of this to other women and educate them. Okay, so my last question, and hopefully you'll be able to answer this in just 2 minutes, is there any
Okay.
way that PID can affect our mental or our emotional health? Is there any way it affects women mentally and emotionally? Then also, are there any lifestyle change that we women need to take a step of change that we need to take to help us, reduce this PID affecting us in any way, at least reduce the risks of having it. Let's just say it's possible that
Okay.
one can have it, but how do you help reduce the risks of having a PID? What are the life changes we have to make? And also, how does this PID affect us mentally and emotionally? I don't know if it's possible, but if you can answer that in 2 minutes, I'll be very grateful. Thank
In
you.
2 minutes. Okay. So for the first minute, how does PID affect a woman's psychological or mental health? Now, it's just the same way it is with every other life-threatening situation. Okay, when you're under stress, you understand, you're not really thinking well, you're worried, you're anxious. Now, if you already have, or you've gone to the doctor and the doctor is telling you that this is what is wrong with you, and in the long term this might happen to you, you understand, you won't necessarily be at rest because all is not really well at that point in time. Okay, all is not well. So really it could just give that woman anxiety. You are worried, you don't know what will happen. Even if I get treated and I finish the course of my medication, what if I'm not able to take in again? What if I take in and then it ends up in it's an ectopic pregnancy? All these things. This can be sources of worry and concern for a woman. It will make her anxious, it will make her worried, it will make her disturbed. Okay, you are not really at peace because you don't know what is going to happen going forward. Then to talk about lifestyle adjustments that women can make to reduce their risk of having or coming down with this PID. Like I said, like I said earlier, or like we said earlier, having protected sex when you cannot vouch for the faithfulness of your partner. That is actually one thing that you can do. Then the second thing you can do is to make sure that you are eating healthy. Okay, you are eating healthy. Now, for women who have poor dietary, or they don't eat well, you already have your immune system compromised and you're putting yourself at risk. So with a compromised immunity, you can easily come down with this PID. I remember that we said that the fact that STIs, gonorrhea and chlamydia is implicated in PID doesn't mean that they are the only organisms that cause it. Now, a lot of other microorganisms can cause this. So it boils down to, as a woman, how are you taking care of your hygiene? When you're on your period, how often do you change your sanitary napkins? How often do you bathe? How your underwears, how do you take care of them? Do you wash them? Do you sun them to dry properly, or you are just nonchalant about your hygiene? That it is an infection caused by organisms causing STIs does not mean that if you don't take your hygiene serious, you cannot come down with it. Remember, another thing again is this issue of douching. Women who use vaginal douches, that is very bad because already douching affects the normal. Maybe we'll just talk about that some other time. But if this is something you do, you just have to stop. Okay, you just have to stop. Washing the vulva with soap and water is enough. You don't have to put anything inside there to make it clean. the vagina itself is self-cleansing. Another thing again is if you are smoking, taking alcohol, or abusing substances, you might want to stop all of this. And I hope that with all of this, having said all of this, and having put all of this into consideration, I am sure that we're going to enjoy optimal health. And finally, if you notice any abnormality in your body, please don't hesitate to visit your healthcare provider. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Cynthia. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. This is well informed. I must take it, because I do not think anyone listening to this will not understand exactly what we are talking about here. If you know what we started, we just said pelvic inflammatory disease. I know it will be confusing, but by the time you go down to this time, you understand that it's a whole lot deeper than just that big bogus word. Okay, anyway, thank you very much, Cynthia, for always joining us and for always very interested in talking to women about their health. I don't know, Joy has been here, Cynthia has been here with us since last year. And of course, at every time we call on her to talk about health, she's always available. And yeah, she even invited me for her wedding, but I could not attend. But still, I still appreciate you so much for always trying. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you. I really appreciate you. From all of us at Galaxy TV, we love you. I would say thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege. Thank you.
Okay, all right. And that's it from Chioma Cynthia Udebwani. Like I said, if you do not know her, she is a registered nurse and a midwife, an outreach facilitator, a Life Impact Foundation. She's a community administrator at a Pregnancy Support Foundation. She is also program manager at a Teens Challenge, a teacher and a mentor. And that's it on the program today.